Welcome to the viewers of Dataquest. And this time we have with us the winner of the Dataquest Lifetime Achievement Award, Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy, founder of SANT, and who's been a legend in this century and the last. Welcome, Dr. Reddy, and congratulations on getting this award.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sunil. I'm very honored to receive this award from Dataquest. Dataquest and my days or my starting days with information technology are very congruent of each other. And I believe that Dataquest is a magazine which has earned a tremendous amount of reputation, respect from the IT community. Receiving a Dataquest award at this point of time makes me feel very, very honored. Thank you for selecting me to this prestigious honor.
Yeah. Thanks. That's really great to hear. And we'd love to, listen to your journey. It's a very long journey, but we'll try to compress it into how much time we can. So, can you tell us about the early days of the Indian IT and how you entered this industry?
But thank you, Sunil. That's a very interesting question. Uh, Rightly said, my journey has been very long. It's been 50 plus years of my professional career that's gone by. The first encounter that I had with computers was way back in 1973. I'm not very sure whether you were born at that point of time.
I was
Uh,
two.
uh, so
Yeah.
good, Sunil. I I went to IIT Kanpur, and at that point of time, IIT Kanpur was considered to have the largest and the best computer center in the country itself, the largest and the best. So that was the first encounter I had. But these were very early days for computers in India. The computer center used to be in a very well architected building with a music fountain in front of it, which was used to be very impressive. But huge computers, an IBM 7044, a 1620, and a 1401, occupying at least about 10,000 square feet of the floor space, but had the power of far less than a smartphone you and I have today that used to cater to as many as 4,000 students. That was my first encounter, all right. Um, and then I went abroad in 1976 for doing my second master's. This was from University of Michigan. And that was my second encounters with the computers. And honestly, it's in 77, or around the time is when I made up my mind that the future should be in computers, and I would make my career, my life around the computers. Though by training, I should make a interesting disclosure that I'm a mechanical engineer by training.
Okay.
But thereafter, it was computers which came into my life. So the early days of this industry were extremely interesting. 1977 is when I came back from US, and my first job, that's when I decided, as I said, to move into computers. I took up a job with Michael Bosch in Bangalore. And those days, even the terminology of IT was not very popular.
Right.
It was called EDP, Electronic Data Processing. I used to be part of their systems group, designing new applications, bespoke applications the for in-house use. That was what it was. I wanted to be an entrepreneur fairly early in my life. I was thinking about entrepreneurship. But again, I'm very proud of my background. I come from a middle-class family. My father was a police officer. My mother was a homemaker. And so we didn't have all of the wherewithal to start a business. So I said, let's wait for the right opportune time. And I used that right opportune time to skill myself well. So there could be two parts before I truly became an entrepreneur in 1991. That's about 30 plus years back. Is one was I was working for somebody as an entrepreneur. Three jobs I had, the DCM group, then it was Michael Bosch, and then those days Hindustan Computers.
Right.
And then for second phase of my life was that I ran a system integration company called OMC Computers, which was originally funded by the Tatas and a world-renowned computer scientist called Dr. Raj Reddy. And finally, when I saw the winds of change coming in 1991, I decided this was the right time for me to take the plunge. And I saw an opportunity in uh, engineering services, and that's how I moved on. People call LPG is a very popular name in India. Everybody talks about LPG gas. Even
Right.
1991, LPG was very popular because L stood for liberalization, P for privatization, and G for globalization. So they thought that the first time in India, truly the country was in a very progressive path. That is briefly what my story is about, how I started off into my computer journey.
Yeah. So that's quite fascinating. I always love hearing about the early years. And you then mentioned about LPG. So that is a different era because you would have totally shifted gears. And though liberalization came, I mean, entrepreneurship is not as easy as it is today. So
Yes.
then you went to this next stage of journey, founding CN. That also has had a long journey. So if you could keep about the founding and the long evolution of that company too.
Sure. So as I said, where I saw an opportunity was in 1991. Actually, my company went into business only in 1992, though I found the company in 1991. We saw this big winds of change coming in because of liberalization of this nation. Certainly, it was jaw-dropping because first time in India we said we could import computers for export purposes without paying any duty. And they said if you did export software, you had 100% income tax relief. There were several more of these nature which came by. We thought that, therefore, it certainly is not what it is today, but certainly it was also different from the license Raj that we went through till 1991. So I personally thought it was a great opportunity. I took the leap of faith. I also had in the run I had for about 18 years before I became an entrepreneur, developed a lot of skills that I thought would be very useful for me to run a company. My first job was more in operations. Then I did system design. A third one, you'll be very surprised. I took a big, a different role of being a sales manager in HCL.
Oh, okay. I see.
That's what I used to do. And then I moved on to OMC Computers. It was a general management function. I was the CEO of the company, or the managing director of the company. So I developed a lot of skills with me. And certainly, over a period of those 18 years, created certain amount of assets, so which I thought would be useful for me to take the risk and made those investments. Also, I saw a very clear opportunity, which was distinctively different from the rest of the people who were in the IT field. Many people were all in the bespoke software development, application software, application maintenance, resource provisioning, and so on and so forth. I saw an opportunity in a very similar format for engineering as a service. That's a category that I created after we incorporated my company. Those days, actually, I started. The name of the company was called Infotech Enterprises. Only in 2014, it was rebranded as Signed. So we saw this new category which we could create called engineering as a service to global companies, providing them design, engineering, maintenance, support from India. No denying the same model as the IT services. It was primarily to do with the cost arbitrage to start with. But for certain, with the cost arbitrage, it was without saying it when that you need to have the best of quality and also the ability to deliver as per your promises, which is basically on-time delivery. If you have those combination, which became basic hygiene subsequently, one would be in a position to do well, and that's what I started doing. The first challenge that I had was about the quality processes because we do have a lot of people around in India. We could still, even in 1990s, find a lot of people. But do we have the right skills for people to do these jobs? And especially when the volume was picking up, you couldn't find the skilled technicians. And we have variation in terms of skills of people the outputs also was varying. So therefore, we discovered that the only way we can solve this problem is through process. And process became very important, process complaints. That is when you saw the wave of change that was coming into India too, in terms of IT companies going to CMMI level 4, level 5, ISO 9000, 2000. These are quality processes which made sure that we all survived the issues relating to scaling. So the scaling was a big challenge, and which I think through processes, I've been in a position to do it. Actually, I keep calling it as we developed a framework called the PPT framework. What did the PPT stand for? The first P was for people. The second P was process. The third is a T, which there are three T's standing one behind the other. It's called tools, technology, and training. Our ability to recruit, retain, reward, retrain people, our ability to draw the best of processes and get the best of certificates, and thereafter apply the right type of tools, technologies. And technologies is more in terms of domain expertise, because especially in the area that I work and I continue to work, domain becomes very important. Certainly, even if you say one of the big verticals that I have, a fourth of our business right now comes from aerospace. But we can't completely say aerospace domain knowledge is good enough, because the
Right.
domain in a fuselage is completely different from the domain knowledge in an engine. Engine
Right.
is a completely mechanical aerostructures and so on and so forth. So therefore, what we did was we did bring in a good amount of domain knowledge into it. We did fairly a few aggressive steps, and the first one was the geographic expansion. As a first generation startup, I did not have those deep pockets to spend those marketing dollars. So I went on this mode of partnership model. So whether it was friends or known people, we said we'll partner with them, let who are there in the Western world. They would do the sales and marketing for me, and I would do the execution or delivery from here. Very quickly, I realized that that's not the model that will work, because two different sets of people, different cultures, two different visions of life. So the end result is we said, no, we need to do something very quickly. And as opposed to many Indian companies which decided to go and open their own offices, I decided, though I was a small company, not that I bought big companies, Western world. In the year 2000, I did three acquisitions. One was in UK, a company called DataView Solutions. The other was in Germany called Advanced Graphic Systems. And a third one was in Washington, DC, and that was called Vargas. So that certainly gave us a foothold, and also actually a local face to sell our products and services. So that was a big move for us in making sure that we started our global expansion as an integral company as such. So over a period of time, we further went ahead and developed a lot of verticals. Today, if you look at the company, it has morphed itself into a different form, shape.
Yeah.
And I think that will be a continuity that can't be stopping at any point of time. I
Right.
keep saying that this is a tireless journey. This is a journey without a destination. You need to continuously innovate to ensure that you are at the top of the ladder. And you have to transform your companies. Companies live forever, human beings don't. But as we
Yeah.
transition leadership too, leadership has to have the same vision in making sure that they would last forever. The other thing that I like to highlight, I also started the company at a point of time that venture capital was not a very popular
Yeah.
word. There were two venture capital companies in India at that point of time. One was IDBI, Industrial Development Bank of India. IDBI Bank's the previous avatar it was. And the second one was ICICI. The only two people had venture capital. In my hurry to start up the company, I decided to go to IDBI and certainly get the whole deal structured with them. It was a reasonable deal for the from in terms of saying I leveraged myself four times.
Right.
My equity at that point of time was 25 lakhs, 20 lakhs of my money and 5 lakhs of my one friend and one relative.
Okay.
And I leveraged it four times over to borrow about 97 lakhs, and my project was 122 lakhs at that point of
Okay.
time. But the terms that I got, people used to make jokes with me saying that, Mohan, what you got is not venture capital money, you got vulture capital money. So that, that was
Sure.
the times we lived. But we sailed
Yeah.
through well because I raised money about 4 times thereafter, not in the initial funding. I did fairly early IPO for the company. 1997 is when the company went IPO. Then I brought in a strategic investor who was my anchor customer. They also had 15% of the company and for some time. Thereafter, they uh, made money twice over, as the CEO himself told me, that not only by taking services from us, but also from the stock that they had with us.
Okay.
We also, at one point in time when we wanted growth capital, we went to a private equity, and they also had 15% of stock in the company. So raise the money at the right time, very frugal in terms of running our business. We always were looking not just for revenue growth, but not for just profitability, but more for what's the free cash flow. Uh,
Right.
we never had a single quarter which was under any stress for the company. We always made some money, good money for sure. I had good cash reserves in the company, continue to keep it at this point of time. So the transformation has been enormous. Innovation has become a critical area for us. But more importantly, I also, as I said, I think in a different context, I believe that companies will live forever. That's the vision with which I created this company. But I also know very well that human beings will not live forever. Uh, and as a result of it, I planned good succession. In 2014, I gave up the role of being the CEO of the company
Right.
in interest of transparency. My son is my CEO, was the CEO. He's not CEO anymore now in the last
Okay.
few years. I gave up the role of being the chairman of the board. I'm just a director on the board. So it's a good classic example, as an ISB case study tells you about how transition can be planned by companies.
Yeah.
And the company is doing good.
Yeah. So that's right. Pretty fascinating one. You have taken us through the, era of IT and also the era of your all where you worked and all. So it's been such a long journey. So I'd just like, to bring one more angle into it. There's another thing which came up like around liberalization. That's NASCOM. That has also been it has helped the IT industry grow, and you assume the leadership, in the last decade. So if you could just speak something about that.
Sure. No, NASCOM has been the biggest asset for the IT industry. And I think they're also slowly moving from the IT industry nomenclature into a more called technology industry leadership position that they are
Right.
in. Amazing institution, 3,000 membership that we have. Very professional institution. Certainly, I think they've done extremely well in policy advocacy. A number of glitches that were there in terms of the policies from time to time have got straightened out with the interaction of the NASCOM leadership with various different government departments. They also did very well in terms of being providing the membership with industry research reports. There's certainly been more thought leadership has been there in NASCOM in providing those glimpses of what is likely to come in the future. It also provided us extremely good networking opportunities. Many events that are there, but also in addition to that, in the very early, even now for that matter, they take delegations out of the country in order to ensure that the marketing visibility for a very strong brand name called NASCOM can be taken by every member. A member has his own brand, but on
Right.
top of it comes the NASCOM brand, which also helps considerably. And the last one I'll call out, which I thought was an outstanding contribution of NASCOM, was as the emerging technologies came by, as more amount of disruption is being seen in the industry at this point of time, they also saw that the type of skills that are required for future are going to be far different from the skills that we had so far. And that's how during 2015, 16 is when I was the chairman of NASCOM. We started this initiative called Future Skills Platform. It got materialized in 2018 or 2019. It's doing amazing work. Actually, the government is further funding it. There is a variation for students at this point of time, which is also run by NASCOM. So in many ways, in terms of policy advocacy, in terms of industry relationships, industry networking, in terms of the skills development, I think NASSCOM has been a great contributor. And certainly, I think NASSCOM and its leadership deserve a great applaud from everybody for what they have done for converting a business, converting an industry which was in millions of dollars, getting
Right.
to hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And equally important is creating so many jobs at this point of time. One of the crying need in this nation is job requirement. And this industry provides as many as 5 million jobs at this point of time, 5 million direct jobs. Indirectly, it would be another 20 million, to looking at a ratio of 1 to 4. So that's been an outstanding contribution from NASSCOM on behalf of the industry. And the other thing, I'm sure, Sunil, you could have read quite extensively. In 91, 92, when liberalization had to be taken as a path for future for this nation, India was on the brink of a disaster in
Right.
terms of making the foreign exchange payments.
True.
From that situation today, what you look at it as, 500 plus billion dollars of surplus we have, it's largely driven by the export industry. And NASSCOM has been in the forefront in promoting that export industry from IT. And so therefore, there is enormous amount of enormous amount of good that's been done by NASSCOM for nation building and for its membership.
Yeah. So, again, in your long career, you have worn many hats, like you talked of SAT, NASCOM, and all. And also, one of the hats you have had is your leadership roles in engineering colleges and academia. Maybe if, since you can speak a bit about that association and also the
Sure,
importance of industry academia.
sure. Thanks again, Sunil. Another good question. So I should let me clarify what was the transition that happened. As I mentioned to you very briefly earlier, in 2014, I gave up the role of being the CEO, and then took a little bit of a back step to only be the executive chairman of the company. Interestingly, at that point of time, there's a mentor who was found by my successor for himself, came by and told me, Mr. Reddy, that I've done this succession in many cases. And we have seen succession to be fairly successful only when the predecessor finds another area of interest to him or her.
Okay.
Otherwise, they always will step back and then come back and say, no, no, you could do this better, and then take a role into the company. So he said, if you truly believe in terms of giving up the role you have, which you have built up so well, but then you have to think about what's your next passion in life and start focusing yourself. And that's when I discovered my passion in life was education. So I
Right.
started spending a lot of time in education. So literally, it's been a journey of last, it was a couple of years. Around that time is when I started thinking about education. Last 12, 14 years, I've been intensely into it. I have the distinction of being the largest serving chairman of an IIT at this point of time. I've been the chairman
Okay.
of the board of IIT Hyderabad for 12 years now. And only last Tuesday, the Honorable Prime Minister dedicated the campus to the nation. We now have 5,000 students on the campus. So, of course, I also provide leadership at IIT Roorkee. But more importantly, in 2018, government came by and said, look, we have major challenges in engineering education in this country, and we want to revamp it. And they created a committee, and I chaired the committee. And this is all about perspective plan for technical education in India. And that is when, for the first time, this was all run by AICT, which is reports into Ministry of Education. So this is beyond IITs. Beyond IITs, there are several thousand engineering colleges in this country. For them, we had to definitely write a perspective plan of what they need to do next. So we identified saying that there is a digital disruption. They need to change the curriculum. We also found that there are fairly serious challenges with the faculty. The quality of the faculty had to be improved. The interventions had to happen for the quality of the faculty. We also looked at pedagogy. It had to become more student-centric as opposed to what was in the past. So the result is we made several of the recommendations. And actually, in the process, we also found that India had a lot more capacity than what was required. And a capacity which was not created with the right intent. So they could be buildings, they could be a so-called faculty, but nothing beyond that. So they were not truly education institutions which participate in nation building. Several of them got closed also as in the process. But one of the bigger ones that we discovered as a part of that report too was that the academia to industry connectivity and the industry academia collaboration has to improve manyfold. That was one of the recommendations, including that we should have representatives of the industry participate in academia on their boards. At least two of the members have to be invited to do that. And the other initiatives we looked at internships, apprenticeships, projects being done by students in the industry. And of course, we have also brought in the concept of professors of practice. Not necessarily people who got PhDs could only teach technology. It could be people who have practiced technology come and can come back to the academia and teach them too. Fairly good amount of work that was done. We again, the government appointed one more committee. It was again headed by me with a different membership, all right, in 2021 to revisit what happened on the 2018 committee. We made some more recommendation. Certainly, I think the technical education is certainly improving. If you ask me, is Reddy, is it the best? No, it's all a question of
Hmm.
saying, is the glass half full or half empty?
Right.
I think it's half full at this point of time. A lot more work requires to be done. That's the role that I play in education. And lastly, I should complete that one is that I'm also very upbeat in terms of not upbeat in terms of entrepreneurship is a way out for this nation in terms of solving the employment challenges that we have.
Right.
It is not anymore an option. It is a necessity in my view. So several things have done. The new one that we have done is we built a school of innovation entrepreneurship in IIT Hyderabad. It is an IIT campus, but built from a corpus that was created from two foundations, my family foundation and the company foundation. And the school is running right now. The academic programs being run under the leadership of the Senate and the IIT professors. But the non-academic program is run by people that get appointed by us, but the whole school is under the CEO who was appointed by us. We're trying to create capacity building in terms of entrepreneurship at this point. So that is also extremely gratifying, rewarding of what I've done in the last 10, 12 years of my life.
Yeah, that also sounds pretty exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. And actually, I think education is not your only passion because you are also strongly involved with the Science Foundation, digital centers, and skill centers. I mean, still in India, not many people realize the importance of skilling. So, can you throw light on that and also the importance of, nation building and skilling?
Sure. Thank you, Sunil. Certainly, I think we were looking at, let me go step back momentarily and say the basic philosophy or the foundation with which I built Sign is called values first. Values, FIRST. Play on this acronym called FIRST, which is fairness, integrity, respect, sincerity, and transparency. Thereafter, I keep saying once you have the foundation, the superstructure is built on four pillars. The four pillars are the customer, the investor, the employee, and the society. Society is a very silent spectator. So very early, much before even the CSR norm came in, we started work with the society. And we choose again education. To me, education then follows through with skills. Skills follow through into innovation and entrepreneurship. That's how the continuum of the circle comes on. So we decided that we'll start with education. We adopted about 36 schools, I believe, right now.
Yeah.
I can spend a enormous amount of time, but just one data point I'd like to share with you and the viewers this evening is that in these schools where we touch the hearts of 10,000 children every year, the girl child population, when we adopted these schools, was between 15 to 18%. That's
Okay.
what it was. Today, on a base of 10,000 children, we have as much as 54% of them
Oh, wow.
are girl children. That's one yardstick. So that then goes on to lead us about our skills initiative. So, but you must be fully aware, Sunil, the GER ratio at this point of time is about 26%. So only 26% of people who pass 12th thereafter go to college. 74% drop off there. And especially again, I'm very worried about my girl child. So therefore, I said, what does happen to the girl child? She finds some job or becomes a housewife thereafter. But when she finds some job, she doesn't have those skills to do it. And that's what triggered us in terms of starting these skilling centers. So we have, it's called the urban micro skilling centers. We have several of them at this point of time. And these are actually skilled people on what is required in the local community. Typically, these are, tailoring is a very important one. Bedside health assistant is another important one. Confectionery, bakery. Uh, these are the ones. These are about 6 or 8 skills that are running in every one of these skilling centers. But what we're making sure is that once these people are skilled, 100% of them get employed, which means that, A, you look for what is in demand. B, you skill them sufficiently to say that they'll be a lot more productive than the unskilled workforce that's there. So that is yet another very gratifying reward I have in front of me to say, look, we have contributed in terms of making sure that the girl child not only got educated better, but also got thereafter gainfully employed. I'll just share one other thought, interesting story in 2 minutes, no more than that, is that, as I said, we have this 10,000 children whose hearts we touch every year. These are located in about 38 schools that are spread around. And you could also understand that, being an technology company, we loaded these schools with a lot of computer hardware. We have computer classrooms, we have a computer library, and so on and so forth. So this is about 6 or 7 years back. One evening, I was sitting down with our team and talking to them, saying that what happens to our computer equipment after children go home? Because children typically leave the school, they're there at about 8:30 in the morning. They leave between 3:30 and 4 o'clock. Typically, that's when the school closes. So our CSR team said, "Oh no, Mr. Reddy, you don't need to worry about it. They're all under safely under lock and key." And I said that was not the intent with which that equipment has been kept there. So
Mm.
we said we racked their brains and found a way and found a very interesting path for using that equipment. The government of India has something called the National Digital Literacy Mission. This is basically the adult digital literacy that goes by. These are in different levels, level 1 to level 4, and starting off with 20 contact hours that can be done in 2 weeks' time, 2 hours each. So what we do is we convert all our, not only the 34 schools, we adopted another 50 of them in a mandal called Serlingampalli. And between them, there are close to 100 of our NDLM centers. They're run by NGOs who have been enlisted by us. They run from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, 2 classes. So that actually creates a volume of about 20,000 people who become digitally literate. In the schools that we have, I keep joking with people, are the children who come to school or the students we have are between the age group of 6 years to 16 years. And
Okay.
once it's past 4 o'clock, it's from 16 years to 60 years. That's the type of group that come by. So whatever initiatives we took on education, in skills, in digital literacy, into innovation entrepreneurship are extremely gratifying too.
Yeah. So I think as it's been a great trip down your memory lane, and it's been fascinating listening about your life, your company, and also these passions, because this is what is going to transform India. And so
Thank you.
I thought maybe we can end with a forward looking, slightly crystal ball gazing, because now I'm sure, like, I remember growing up in the 80s and 90s, people wouldn't even believe that India could become a great power. But now, with the amount of rapid changes taking place, people are actually talking of, India's India 2047 mission and how we can become a tech superpower by then. So I'd like to know your views on that.
Sure. Thank you, Sunil. Thank you again. I'm a very strong believer that India has a great story ahead of it. We've seen this transforming over a period of several decades. A phase of this country was prior to 1991, before we took the path of liberalization. I think the way in which the current government is summing it up is the 75 years of independence that we have. But we now enter into the next 25-year phase, which is the Amrit
Right.
Kal. And Government of India also embarked on the strategy of Atmanirbhar Bharat, with self-sufficient India. Certainly, over a period of last 75, and now it's become 76 or becoming 77 years of post-independent India, I think we have done extremely well in several areas. We built reasonably good infrastructure. It is changing quite rapidly. I drove to rural Andhra last weekend, especially the national highways were outstanding, nothing short of that. Or, I flew to Delhi yesterday and saw a flight which is most of the flights actually are not 99%, they're 100% occupied.
Yeah.
That's the
True.
new phenomenon, which is very good, not denying at all. So as a result of that, what we see is the middle class has grown considerably. The government has put out figures to say they have also lifted about 20% of the population from the below the poverty line in the last 10 years. The economy growing at the pace of 7%. Certainly, unhesitantly, we are the fastest growing, largest economy in the world. And truly, I think there's not so much of math that one needs to do to say in the course of next 3 years or so, India will become the third largest economy in the world. So that way, it looks very positive. But further, if you look at it, I think in the areas of education, we did well, but I think a lot more requires to be done. So is the case of healthcare, agriculture, I think of the recent past, logistics, and so on and so forth. The good news is that this country has a very young population. As people keep saying, we have this advantage of demographic dividend.
Right.
And we also have history telling us that countries like South Korea, Japan, China, which enjoy demographic dividend, certainly made good use of it for economic upliftment and the social good, people becoming a lot more economically, financially stronger than what they were in the past. I feel, therefore, it can happen. And I think Indians are smart people. And therefore, with the right type of education and skills, we can definitely become the technology hub for the world. A lot of interventions happening on education. I think a good thing that I like to call out is the NEP 2020, the new education policy of the government of India. It is in different stages of implementation. The elements of NEP 2020 certainly will drive this nation more towards creativity, more towards analytical thinking, design thinking, people becoming lot more knowledgeable rather than just go through the rote learning and by heart things and vomit them in exam. That transformation is also we are seeing, not necessarily in the college level. I keep saying, if you do it in college level, they'll all disappear in 2 years or 4 years thereafter. You
Right.
should start from the school level. So the interventions are happening at those levels. And therefore, in an era where technology has been at its best, and the focus is on technology, if we adopt and the technology is there in every facet of life. Originally, why was it called information technology? Because this technology was actually used for collecting information about
Right.
a company, where a company or a government, etc. And based on the information, you took the decisions thereafter. But now it's become all pervasive. You can think about agriculture, you can talk about healthcare, you can talk about logistics everywhere, or for that matter, in education too. I keep thinking about and talking about this. It is education which brought knowledge. Knowledge drove some of those new things that have happened in technology. But technology is again being used in education itself to
Right.
ensure that the knowledge becomes a much more intensified. It takes shorter time to grasp the same amount of knowledge. All those are coming because of technology per se. So I think, Sunil, sum total of it is that extremely positive about what the future for this nation is. We need certain interventions. I think if we can do them right, I think there's great amount of prosperity for this nation as we move forward.
Okay. So thank you. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you, and thank you for sharing your time and wisdom on this
Thank you, Sunil.
important.
It's a pleasure talking to you too.